Lovely.
Streaming. Yeah, we should be live.
Lovely.
Amazing.
What's the time?
1:15.
Only slightly late then.
Yeah.
That's good for me. It's pretty much the same as early. It's a new kind of early, which is only slightly late. I think that's a perfectly reasonable description.
Also, for every early, there must be a late. You're just keeping the...
I think that's part of the balance of the universe.
Yeah, exactly. For every early person, there's going to be a late person.
But yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be. Could it? I mean, if everyone was early, that, you know.
Well, if everybody was early, then the time was wrong.
Yeah. I've tried arguing with people who despise lateness, and they don't see it like that.
Yeah, but there's a difference between being late for something like this and being late for a dinner where it must be served at a particular time.
Yeah, fair enough. Although, you know, I do imagine people do sort of set their clocks by this. You know, they put it in their diary and they put the time aside because they're dedicated to watching this. Absolutely. It doesn't happen, but I imagine that it does. And that's almost as good as the real thing. Right, this is going to be fun. I've got these. I've got a stick. I'm going to do a picture of a stick. I've got these. Are they blossoms? Or are they just flowers? Then they look.
Well,
like
if they're on a stick, surely that's a blossom then, isn't it?
I think they're apple blossoms. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. What's the difference? Blossom, flower, isn't it all the same thing? Yeah. So this should be a bit of fun today. Some experiments with pink. So I'm going to populate the palette with a nice bit of variety around that colour range. So we're going to have a bit of alizarin.
Oh, Josie's already popped up.
Hey.
Hi both. You just popped up on my iPad out of nowhere. That's a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, so I was just discussing what use of reds. So I've got these bright pinks. So in order for those pinks to look bright enough, I'm going to need a little variety of pigments. What's this one?
She also said maybe it's a crab apple.
Could be. I mean, yeah, I really am horribly ignorant about these things. Here's an unlabelled tube of paint. If the labels come off, I think that means this is permanent rose. Let's pop a bit of that out as well. Kind of looks quite like the alizarin. I don't think there's a lot of variety there. The background colour is quite fun as well. Also, I'm doing this quite small, so perhaps today's another one of those times when I make the effort to do something in thicker, lumpier paint, and hope that works out. So first of all, let's get a bit of drawing on.
Don't mind me for a minute. I'm going to swap the cameras over because that one's glitching quite a lot.
Okay, sure. Right. I'm going to go with the purple. Yeah, I could go with a non-sympathetic colour. What would be a non-sympathetic colour? No, I like the idea of a sort of a pink in the middle. Try some of that permanent rose, see what that does. Oh, that's rather delicious. Yeah, okay, this is going to be quite intense. So if I think about fitting this in, I'm thinking of don't know if I can see, they are sort of that being an edge. Graham's head's in the way. Oh, there. And that being another edge, and I'm sort of putting it in a rectangle. In fact, if I go for a square, that's kind of a square going around there. If I plot that square in a comfortable place on here, it's going to be like that. Actually, a bit lower. And I've got an idea of what goes where. As in, there's a little flower up here in that corner. And if I go along here, about halfway down, there's some flowers there, which go about a third of the way across. And there's a couple of leaves and things. And there's another flower there. We'll get this down to here, and then there's a little row of them along the bottom. Something like that. And what's this going to do? So I haven't really got a scale in mind yet or anything like that, but that seems to agree pretty well. Let's have a look at this. It's escaping. I'll shrink it all down a little bit. Yeah, there's a bit of room for manoeuvre here. It'll be roughly the same place. No, it'll move over a bit. That's quite fun. So I've sort of got an idea, a rough idea. Once again, you're viewing this from a different angle to me. I've also got some rather fun little shadows. There's a little floaty one up there. A little floaty one behind here. Up on there. And then, oh, not in the right place anymore, but yeah, quite like that stalk from lower down. I'll borrow that. This can all move up.
Is there a reason you've chosen quite a dark colour because you'll use that as shadowing?
No, the reason I'm using this colour is because it's sympathetic to the pinks, and Yeah, well, that's about it, really. It's,
Okay.
and so when those pink colours go on top, let's make a few more negative spaces up here. Leafy bits, a few fairy bits there. Oh. Again, I don't have to have the drawing absolutely perfect. Let's get rid of bits of the square now. But I do want to be able to sort of see it and judge it. And if it's, you know, the tricky thing is once you've done this work, if you decide you don't like the result, then you kind of have to start over. Yeah, I'm fiddling now already. Try not to do that.
You mentioned earlier as well about you might do a thicker paint.
Yeah, I always tell myself that, and then I end up not doing that.
But like, what's the benefit or reasoning behind doing thicker paint?
If you use thicker paint, then the colour has a bit more power.
Okay.
Partly because of the surface. So if you've got a smoother surface, it depends. Okay.
So, will it give more texture
you can get more intensity of colour with thicker paint. You don't have to achieve it in one go. You could, patiently layer it on glaze after glaze until the colour intensity turns up. In fact, that's a tried and tested method that works.
And if you're layering it up like that, do you need to wait until each layer dries?
Yes.
Before you then go on to the next one?
If you're doing it like glazing, yes. But I don't think, because I'm trying to do this in one go. The other thing is, so I'm working on a canvas here, and canvas has a texture. So the texture of the paint kind of but I prefer it if it defeats the texture of the canvas. So you don't see canvas texture, you see brush marks.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not as easy to achieve as you'd think. One of the things that, especially when people are starting out painting, is they'll mix small amounts of fairly thinned paint, especially in acrylics. This happens a lot. And then they paste it on, and then that bit of the canvas has changed to the colour that they want, but there's no evidence of the brush mark because the canvas texture is so much more dominant. So you need extra thick paint in order for the canvas texture not to be the sort of most readable thing.
But do you have a thickly textured canvas to pick up more paint?
Yeah. Well,
so you're kind of fighting a battle between how much you want to put on versus how much you're trying to cover up the canvas.
And the more you fiddle with it, the more it smooths it out. That's another thing. So these are the. And the other thing is, if you want to put on thick paint and leave it there, you've got to pretty much get your colours right first time. You can't be messing about mixing on the surface, because the more you do that, the flatter the surface gets, and the more the canvas texture is the main texture. But at the same time, you can. That looking, this looks pretty good on the screen. Yeah, I'm fairly comfortable with that. This is a fairly simple image, so I should be able to mix reasonably large quantities of the colours that I need. Get a result. I figure I'll just go ahead and do that then. Yeah, no excuse for stalling any further. We get some mixing white and then more of the same. I've got some raw umber here. So I'm going to mix it neutral grey. I can use to add to things. It's quite blue. Yeah, that's pretty good. And sort that to this. A bit more. That makes a little bit of viridian up here. Put some of that in. And probably a little bit of yellow ochre as well. How's that look? Pretty good. Yeah, a little dab of yellow ochre as well. Warm it up a little bit. I could make two versions of this. I don't think I will just yet. I'll get the rest of that and use it as a shadow colour. And again, this is stuff that can be quite thin. It's the petals and the bright colours that I want, and the branch itself. It's got this sort of lovely sort of hefty texture to it. I need to mix some more dark. Use the rest of that raw umber. Pop a little bit of blue in, not too much. There you are. So these are all things that can go in thin. So the lights on top. I'll reuse that bit of the palette. I will clean that off properly. Try not to stab myself in the process, that'd be good. Brilliant. Where's my bin?
It's behind you.
Ta-da! Okay. Too pale already. So yeah, a lot of the substance of the paint comes from the white you use. So I'm using a mixing white all the way at the moment. A bit of yellow ochre in that. A bit of blue. Blue will darken it a fair bit. Way too blue. Yeah. Okay, that's the start of what will be a thicker layer of paint. We've got one lighter here and one yellower. The boot. Yeah. That'll do me for my twig. So the other thing is how you apply the paint. So if you want thicker paint on the surface, it often looks like there's more physicality attached to it. But actually, you change the angle of the brush, and so when I start working, the brush is straight on, and it pushes into the surface and flexes. And you're really pushing it into the canvas. Later on, that brush will start to go onto its side, and it'll be dragged across the surface. The paint that's loaded up on it will mostly sit flat on the top. What else? Anything else? Not quite yet. So I've got enough for my stick and my... I think I might go ahead and do those. So yeah, I've got my background colour. A couple of brushes. That's a good one. Right. So yeah, let's do a few of those negative spaces. Oh, that feels way too blue. I think it is. Yeah, right. A little revisit of this. I'll keep some of that blue as a leftover. Right, a bit yellower. See what that does. There you are. That's more like it. So I want a few those negative spaces. I'm going to be painting some leaves and things as I go here as well. If that's there, this is going to be here.
I do like the way that with oils, if you kind of make the wrong colour and put it on the painting, it's not the end of the world.
No. Well, I think that's true with any opaque paint. I think watercolour is the only paint that's got that restriction. Obviously, there's other things like silk painting and that kind of thing where, yeah, that it also applies. There's not many things. Well, I think that ability to change your mind is such a useful thing for artists, that always pursue mediums that have the ability to change your mind. Otherwise, you end up sort of practicing beforehand on something else. So you'd pick something else. If I wanted to do a really good watercolor, I'd do it in gouache first, so I knew what colors I wanted. I'd have to make those decisions somewhere, and either you can sort of practice doing the same kind of thing again and again, so that you've got a pretty good chance of getting it right first time. But honestly, most of the time, if you want it to be interesting and not just sort of some rehearsed performance of a picture, you've got to do a bit of a investigation. There we are. Yeah, couple of leaves. Weird space in between. Not worried too much about that. We go in here. A nice little negative space. That's in there. Again, some shadows behind there, but I'll get around to them later. The good thing about flowers and plants is you can take some liberties. You can apply a bit of artistic license and move branches and things around, but I really enjoy, I don't want to do an idealized picture of what it should look like if it were nice. I want to find out what's there, and that might contain some sort of awkwardness or some ugliness or some things that don't quite match, or a thing that would be slightly better if it was, in a slightly different place. But I prefer it to the lie of an idealized scene, and I think the world of art has to deal with that too much. There's too many sort of mountains and with glassy lakes and happy fisher folk, and that whole kind of, wouldn't it be nice if everything was like that? So that's what we want pictures of. That's a world where all books and films have happy endings, and it's not real. So yeah, but reality goes a long way. It's funny watching this appear, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, there's been sort of different things that you can see in the background. I saw a dog earlier.
Right.
And now there's a bit of a face on the left-hand side.
Okay. This is the pareidolia's kicking in. I've talked about that before, haven't I?
Go. Say again.
Oh, well, it's the human ability to see not just faces, but information where there isn't any, especially visually. In fact, it might just be a visual phenomenon to have that name. The simplest example is seeing pictures in clouds. You lay on your back on a summer's day and you think a cloud looks like a face or an animal, or there's some other good examples. My favourite one, I think, is probably the well, actually no, there's a couple. There's a coat hook that looks like a drunk octopus that wants to fight, because it's got two slightly different heights, so it looks like it's doing that, and of course the screw holes are wonky and you read them as eyes. So and there's a house in Bristol that looks like Hitler, which is bizarre, but nonetheless you see a picture of it and you go, oh yeah, that house looks exactly, because it's just got this black front door and these two things above it, and this sloped roof. So it's basically, it's kind of an accidental caricature, if you like. And yeah, accidental caricature is a good way to describe it. And so we voluntarily look for images and try and make sense of the world in that way. And yeah, it's a fun thing, but it's also, I tell you, it's really useful if you're learning to draw. One of the things that's difficult is unseeing the version of the world that your mind creates for you. We have an idea of what a thing should look like because we sort of have a list in our mind. We think about the stick man, The stick man isn't a drawing, it's a list. It's a type of writing. and then the list is a head, a body, 2 arms, 2 legs. That's the stickman list, and you can actually number them and play a game of hangman, and it's as difficult every time. I think actually it'd be very easy playing hangman against me because I keep thinking of new things to draw, and so you'd really have my stickman would have at least 26 parts, which would render the game moot. Oh, here you are. This is interesting. As that paint gets a bit thinner or more strongly applied, it brings up more of that purple from underneath. As it does that, it sort of creates this lot of shadows around here. Yeah, it's just Mai Tai or something. Or now glass water would be fine. Thanks. You're having to rehydrate yourself after foolishly getting sunburned.
Yes.
Such an idiot. Not so good that it kept you awake, apparently. Graham fell asleep in the sun, and today he's prickly. Yes, it's a very British rite of passage, isn't it? Every single year go, oh yeah, sun's hotter than I thought it was. Right, I'm going to go straight in with these darks and talking about making different types of marks and the thickness of paint. Here, I'm putting the brush straight at the canvas and applying it thinly, but with a certain amount of control and accuracy, so I can get some of the language of these stalks and things, especially the places where it's very dark. At least all the way around. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Somewhere I can easily kick it over.
Yeah, perfect. It's just nice to enjoy the best proper day of the year where you can sit outside and just not.
Good.
You had a water fight, didn't you? Today?
Yeah.
And kids, stealthy tactics.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was. I think I definitely fought bravely.
You have to with like 3 and 4 year olds, don't you? They are fearless.
Oh no, they're not. They really are figuratively and literally big babies. Yeah, no, you squirt them with water and they squeal and run away. It was, I mean, no one was keeping score or anything, but I definitely won. So, no, they had, once they realised that, you know, they could get squirted in the face and all it did was make you a bit wet, they got a bit braver and had a bit of fun with it. And also became completely without sympathy for the suffering of others, which is, you know, nice to be able to teach kids something useful. You know, if you're going to go out into this cruel and amoral world, it's important to learn to be cruel and amoral. So yeah, I did get rather soaked. No, it was all good fun.
You've only yourself to blame.
Yeah, it's amazing as well how being squirted with water is doesn't matter who you are, the natural response is to squeal and run away. Even though you would splash water on your own face to wake up and go, how refreshing, I'm glad I did that. It's sort of a permission thing. And I'm slightly worried. Or really it was getting really rather sadistic. So I just held onto her water pistol. I didn't do anything. I just held it still. And so she's using both hands to try and pry it out of my hand. But she's quite strong, but not strong enough. And so that she was trying to pry my fingers away and coming up with different strategies. And eventually she realised, right. So we agreed to rule out scratching or biting. Let's not do that to each other. Not that I was having any part of it. I was just holding a water pistol. And then she realised, tickling. And all the kids thought it'd be very funny to tickle me. And I was genuinely scared at that point, because if someone tickles me, I no longer have physical control over myself. And I don't want to be apologising to someone for accidentally hitting their child all the way home. So I'm running around Pageant Gardens, keeping at least 6 feet between me and any giggling child. Just hoping they go back to water squirting instead. That's much safer. But yeah, I've kicked more than one person in the face by accident when they thought it was funny to tickle me.
From the sounds of things, more than one person, not by accident.
No, it would never be deliberate. But I mean, I've probably had, different degrees of being sorry about it afterwards. I'll grant that, but it really is just involuntary. Can't deal with it. So people are forewarned. If anyone thinks that's funny to tickle someone, they might be making a laughing noise.
Again, that's an involuntary.
But it's not to say that, at that point, are you really going to feel bad if you accidentally kick that person in the face? You wouldn't go up behind a horse and do it. Let's creep up behind this horse and irritate it to see what happens. It's going to get kicked in the chest, so don't do it. Yes. No, I like being able to turn back into a little kid and just muck about like that. I don't think I'd be any good as the actual responsible adult kind of thing, but it's a fun thing to join in with. Oh, here we are.
Being the responsible adult is the boring part, isn't it?
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a few bits of this green. And here, I'm loading up a brush, but I'm loading up a bit more like a spatula sort of thing. I don't know if you can see that. And then when it comes to putting the colour on, lay it on top like that. And that sits up. It's going to give me a darker, so it's quite a cool green here. Where else does it go? Around there's a bit. Anywhere else? It's a lot yellower over there. Maybe a little bit here. Your stomach rumbling, Graham?
No.
Not the cat growling or anything.
No organs has gone.
No.
I was here a minute ago.
Okay. if I'm changing up colour because of the way I loaded the brush, I want to wipe off the excess. But you see, yeah, actually I wasn't even paying attention to it then, but you should have seen the angle of the brush change, like here. Maybe in here as well. Yeah, I think that needs to get, it looks really dark on the palette. I think it needs to get even darker than that. Get the dark one and just put more yellow in it. So this is one of the dangers, brush mixing. I'm just mixing with the brush. That means I've only got a certain amount of paint there. It means it's not necessarily going to be possible to load up the brush and trowel it on. This is where I can introduce a bit of texture. Here we are, up here. There's some. There's a bit more. A bit on here. I'll wander down. Oh yeah, quite a bit on here. And there's some shadow. And then it comes back out into the light again. Yeah, that works pretty well. And this other one I mixed can just be some little highlights. Yeah, we can come to that later. Yeah, let's put a few of these
How's the jazz night the other evening?
fire lines in. Good, yeah, had some fun with that. Nice chaps. I'm looking forward to the next one.
That's going to be worth it, is it?
Quite excited about that.
Is it worth booking a table then?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, we're getting some real class in.
Oh. Am I going to be turned away at the door then?
No, I mean the musicians. No, the punters are still a bunch of idiot plebs. They have no idea what's happening or how lucky they are. But I do point that out to them, so I think that helps.
Oh yeah, it smooths the way.
Yeah. Because otherwise, they might never know.
Yeah, I go through life thinking everything's fine.
Yeah.
Everyone else.
There you go. These greens out. We'll go back to the darks again here.
So when is the next one then?
It's the last Thursday of the month, so
okay.
You've got my wall planner in front of you. You can tell me. I don't know, do I?
What is it next month? May. Last Thursday is the 29th.
That'll be it. We've got Anders Ollender and Terry Quinney, both of whom are absolute world-class musicians. It's going to be a real treat.
Are you joining them or?
If I can be of any use, they certainly don't need me. Not like, oh no, it's going to sound terrible unless we have someone sitting on the bass. Anders plays piano, but also Hammond. and I don't know if he does the stuff with the foot pedals.
Okay.
Some old Hammond players do that. Some just use their left hand, and that works fine. But they'll do their own bass a lot of the time. So, like a Hammond organ trio would be drums, Hammond organ, and a guitar or saxophone. They wouldn't be a bass player. Like the Doors. They had an organist, so they didn't have a bass player.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, go back to some of this background colour now. And I'm going to go a bit lighter and get some of this slightly bluer colour off one side. And really see if I can refine some of these shapes. I'll probably come back to this later on, but in the meantime, it's quite fun to just sort of I think I'm going to need some of the pinks in stuff before I really pin this down. But if I get some of these sort of these cool colours breaking up the negative shapes, negative spaces, quite fun. Yeah, like that. And it creates a bit of variegation, isn't that a word? It is a word. In the background, so I've got these slightly different temperatures in the background colours. Yeah, in there. A bit in here as well. Maybe a bit cooler up here. Maybe down there. Yeah, I've got these interesting sort of organic shapes.
Are there ways to emphasise the importance of the negative spaces that you've got?
Oh yeah, well I'm kind of doing it now. I'm working into them rather than just having a flat colour. I'm working into them as if they're actual things, which they are if you look at them that way. The spaces are quite important for making the image. So yeah, so I'm sort of painting them as such. I'll pop in a little bit here and there, really refine that edge and work into these bits. Nice little points.
Amazing amount of detail that you can actually get with such a big brush.
Yeah, well, it's got this kind of creates a blade, and that's to do with it, the brush being relatively new, and also the paint having a certain stickiness. The stickiness of the paint allows that to happen. Okay, before I do any more of that, I'm going to get some of these pinks going. Right. Slightly smaller brush. No, I'm going to start large.
I'm waiting for you to use the monster brush that you've got in the corner there.
This one.
Yeah.
The 18. Yeah, cover that
Excellent.
pretty quickly. rob some cadmium bread from over here. Because I want quite a warm red for these. Well, actually, a little mixture of two. I want a warm red and a cool one as well.
Do you ever find that you, like when you're painting, that you sort of instill different tonal variations of colour based on your mood when you're doing it?
Right, that from an artistic point of view, that was a bit of a word salad.
Yeah, well,
Don't worry.
My conversation in this is...
It happens to Simon Sharma, it happens to the best of them. Yeah, when you say tone, when we're talking about painting, and things, this is sort of like a painting thing, tone refers to light and dark.
Right.
How close it is to white or black, or,
Okay.
or in between. There's a lot of words that get used. Shade is another one. Doesn't really mean anything. You know, they talk about a colour as a shade, and you kind of know what they mean, but it's so non-specific. It's just not helpful.
So help me with my vocabulary with this then.
No, I'm trying to get to. Sorry, I should have listened more carefully to try and figure out what question.
So say, for instance, you're in a more, you're in a really happy mood. Would we then say that the brightness of the image, you would tone, you would brighten the image up, and if you're in a bit of a foul mood, then it might be a bit darker?
Actually, I wouldn't put it down to mood like that. So yeah, so there's a thing that happens with colour saturation, which is how intense the colour is. So a good example is, well, you only have to mix grey with something. If I get a grey here, like that, and I add, if I've got a blob of red, and then I get another blob of red and I mix it with the grey, they're both red, but one's a damn sight redder than the other.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a thing with intensity of colour. Absolutely, it produces a physical reaction, you know, which is why we react to something like these brightly coloured flowers. They have a power, which is, you know, important in many ways. That the intensity of colour is the thing that it's communicating, both to us and also to bees, apparently. Sort of the reason for the whole thing. Hang on, what's going on here? So yeah, sometimes people will refer to my paintings as muted. They go, I like your muted palette, they'll say. What they actually, the word they would use, if it didn't sound insulting, is dull. But dull is the word. I use a dulled palette. Most colours, if you look around you, are a kind of brown. They're a mixture of all the colours. If it sort of takes some extreme circumstance to produce a completely pure primary or secondary colour, and especially at the tonal value where it's the most intense. So something like the red I was just talking about, if I get that red and I make it darker, it becomes less red. If I make it lighter, it becomes less red. There's sort of some full-on redness. If I make it darker, even if I use crimson or something, you know, darken it. A little bit of blue in there. Oh, yeah. So it's still red, but it's darker, but it's less red than this. And if I did the same thing by adding white to it, you get some of that red, and well, you've already seen it happen on the other side. And it washes out and becomes this rather feeble pink colour. I haven't added any other colour to these. I haven't polluted the colour. All I've done is make it darker or lighter. If I added black to it, it would go grey even quicker than this. So yeah, there's other interesting things like that. It needs a little bit of yellow to look like the same colour, a lighter version of the colour it started out as. There you go. So yeah, so there's a lot going on there. I will use these, by the way. That's why I'm sort of doing them. What was I going to say? Yeah.
But do you find that the way that you interpret colour when you're looking at it?
Yeah,
is
do I
affected?
see things as brighter if I'm in a good mood? I don't know if I do. I think I'm probably more drawn to bright things if I'm responding to them. So if I'm responding to a brightly coloured flower, then obviously its jaunty bright colour is appealing to me at that moment. So, and maybe sometimes flowers can cheer you up a little bit, but I've done some pretty depressing pictures of flowers.
Yeah.
So.
But then it leads on to another question, which is if you are doing a painting for somebody where you are visiting it over the course of a couple of days,
Yeah.
do you think that your mood on each of those consecutive days for the same painting
absolutely, yeah,
will affect what you're producing?
Yes, completely. In fact, I think it's the only thing that affects what I'm producing. You could take the most ordinary subject matter, and on different days in different, you'll be in different moods and you will produce different pictures. So, like I said, it's quite possible to do a depressing picture of a flower. Maybe not depressing, that might be a bit mean, but something introspective and muted and calm and quiet. And another day, create a full-on riot. I do worry somewhat about, there's quite a popularity for very loud flower pictures, where it's just all the colours all the time. And I can't help thinking that can't come from a calm person. There's this idea that they might kick off at any moment and just go mad. Okay, now this is flat still, notice. I've got some more darks in here, but maybe I'll work towards them. So very little colour is going down. I'm just finding my way into it. But it will give us surface to work into. Actually go a little bit darker, a little bit redder. Try that. Yes, there's some deep shadows under here. And in here. What's interesting is we've been messaged.
Mayfish Shaft, or my pronunciation is probably terrible at that. Saying in love with the colour and the composition and everything.
Oh, lovely. Oh, what a nice, thank you for making the effort to send a message. I really appreciate that. Yeah, well,
you can only apologise profusely for your idiot in the corner who can't pronounce names properly.
Yeah, no, I'm very grateful to have you there mispronouncing the names rather than having to do it myself. Okay. Yeah, so there's some quite So I'm working my way towards the bright colours. These are still quite dull. I guess the thing is, you know, I have this process, and if I stop adding colour because I feel like that's enough, that might happen earlier if I'm not in a jubilant mood. Or sometimes it's just that, you know, too much colour can drown out. I frequently talk about bright colours as shouty.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good word for them because they're noisy and they sort of overload your senses, and you can't hear something quiet when people are shouting. Some people communicate almost entirely through shouting, and I'm a big fan of peace and quiet, which you wouldn't know if you're a friend of mine. Have to put up with my incessant talking, but yeah, there's a thing you find in the quiet which you can't access at any other time, and I think, you know, life's busy and we're under all this pressure to be heard, but sometimes it's one of the things I really like about painting is it's a time when it's like sitting and listening. That's all it is.
But it's interesting though, because you're producing something which then needs to be heard.
In a sense, I mean, I'm not sure how much it does need to be. That's one of the tricky things about doing art, is that you end up with a whole load of pictures and you think, what on earth are these for? I mean...
Right, before you continue, Josie's messaged and said, interesting that minty green, would never have thought to put it behind the flowers.
Yeah, it's really going to make this pink kick. But how much, you know, so if I made that green even greener...
Apologies because I interrupted you then. But...
No, it's all right. I'm sure I wasn't saying anything particularly interesting.
Yeah, you were saying that you paint a lot of pictures and then end up with a lot of pictures.
Yeah, exactly. You could easily never bother showing them to anyone because that's not why you do them, really. But I know what you mean. You do imagine an audience for them, even if they never get that far. That's in your mind to some degree when you're painting pictures. But the real purpose is that you get to do them. That's the privilege of painting, not people appreciating it. Nice as that is, if it happens, it simply can't be the reason, because you'd have to wait for so long for that to work. It would be just soul destroying, you know. If you did anything else and like after year 5 you're still doing really badly, it doesn't look like it's going to improve anytime soon. You'd better have your own reasons to keep doing it, or you simply won't. And I think that's part of the nature of painting. So then, this idea that they belong somewhere afterwards and that you need to find this home for them. Okay, I've got this warmer red now.
Yeah, Josie's also written, as the Viridian is a cool green, I would not have thought it as a good compliment to a cool pink.
Yeah, but the pinks are going to warm up, and in fact I'm doing that right now, so I'm putting in some warm darks here. I don't know if this shows. Can you see these colours going in?
Yeah.
It's a subtle difference. Definitely in here there's some, and there's going to be some oranges that go on top of these as well. These are still quite cool up here, but there's a warm edge, probably two. There we are. I'm seeing some things now. This is still before the paint gets thicker. It's the really bright saturated colours. The paint's going to get thicker proportionately. There's a deep red in here. And underneath. And is that everything? This is the tricky bit. This is where I'm searching around the whole image, going, have I missed a bit? Maybe down there. Would have missed out some of these redder flowers, but there is one here. And I will pop it in just for the... Oh, and over there. No, that's cooler as well. It's warm at the front. Oh, there's a bit there. No, that's okay, actually. I didn't do too much detail. Okay, I'm going to move to my oranges. I haven't got a cadmium yellow. I don't think I need one. Have a little bit of white. No, just to carry it. There we go. Now, where was this? It's too bright. That is too bright. Where did I see it? In a few places. There's a bit there. Oh, you can see how much lighter that is. That's too much lighter. There's me thinking of it as orange. It's just more orange, which means if I go to the cad red, maybe that will do it. Here, there's a bit in there. There's quite a few bits. Take that back down again. Where else is it? There's a bit in there. More of it in there. And here. This is where the colour's getting more intense. That does get lighter. There we go. At this point, I'm actually sort of approaching the colours I want, and yeah, it's quite possible I'll never get around to that thicker paint, but no, I think I will. And this is probably the time. So yeah, what have we got? Now into that sort of spatula mode again.
Oh, I've missed that. 2 weeks away. A single spatula.
Okay. I'm using the brush like a spatula though. Sorry to disappoint. Where else? Where else? I'm looking around for this. This place where this colour goes. Bit in there. That's okay. What about this? Doesn't know. Nah. Confused now. What about in here? Yeah, definitely warmer down there. Right, it's at this point I want to not get too carried away. I haven't done any of the greens for the leaves. I think I'll come back to that, but you know what I will do?
We are at 8:25, just so you know.
Thank you for that. I haven't used yet. No. We go back to this this dark brush, and I'm going to mix myself a stronger green. A bit of mixing might give it opacity. Greens are so tricky. Let's see what that does. What a dark, is it dark enough? I'd say that's pretty good actually. A bit bluer. And I'll introduce more yellow to it. Afterwards. So this can be really quite thin. Where else has got it here? Mm.
What was that sigh for?
Oh, it was a little chuckle.
Yeah.
I'm seeing, I'm thinking of other places these colours go. Right. Now next to that, mix me up some lighter yellow. Now, come in on that side. In here. Notice the angle of the brush changing. I'm pointing it out because I'm noticing it now. And that means I can hold that. Hold the brush to the surface. And deliver slightly thicker paint that just sits up. Still not quite right. I'm not going to do. I'm going to get some yellow and make a crisper green. Tiniest bit of iridium, but however much you use, it's too much. Oh no, that's pretty good. Right, where's that going to go? It's going to go on here. Still not yellow enough. Crazy. There we are. See if that does it. Lovely. The green's on. there. And a couple on here as well. Even these are going to get lighter and yellower. This, there we go. Where else does that go? Right, few little flashes here. Little highlights. There's some. What else has them? Dash there. Oh, a little dash a bit here. Anywhere else? That will probably do. I want to keep that brush going. Possibly. Let's leave that there. Right, so the pink. This is one for the palette knife. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a good colour for it.
So it's quite vibrant, isn't it?
It is. And this is the one point where it makes a difference which core colours you're using. Grab another bit of... No, I'll just do it here. A bit more titanium white. There's some. Yeah. Yeah, because whenever you're mixing, even if it's only very slightly, you're moving away from the brightest version of that colour you could make. I'll put the tiniest bit of yellow into that. Oh, that's too much. Okay, so that's my cool pink. Let's have a warm one as well. It's going to be over here somewhere. And this should do my highlights quite nicely. He says. It should be the last thing I have to do on this painting to make it work. Let's go with this colour first. And I don't think that's quite enough. Ah, I'm looking at the wrong one. Like an idiot. Right. Up here we are. We've got this intensity of colour. Still got room for a few bright highlights. Turn that back on again. I can go back to the slightly darker one in places. There and there. And a little bit in here. A little bit at the edge of that. Right. Where else? Okay. Where else does that go? Along here, little frilly edges. Particular shape there.
Dominique D. Roseberry said, lovely painting.
Oh, that's very nice. Are people finding their way from YouTube or Twitch? Or I'm not sure if I'm on Twitch anymore.
No, you're not. That was Facebook.
All right. Well, that's lovely. Thank you so much for chipping in.
I really like this one. It just seems really light and airy.
Well,
I guess that's the negative space components that are within it. But nice.
Yeah, I guess it was time to do something like this. And get darker. And that. I've still got some bright highlights I can put onto this.
The bright highlights. Are you still using colour?
Yeah. Always. Never dip the brush in the white. It doesn't work.
What happens if you do that then?
Well, you end up with a white which is in no way related to.
Okay.
So you could put a piece of white paper under a bright lamp, and you'd still be seeing colour because there's a colour context to the room and all the rest of it. You tried painting that by doing a square of white paint, it wouldn't look like it. It agrees with the list in your head of, yes, this is white paper, this is the colour that it is. So most people, if they were doing a painting of something, I think every painter experiences this, and you'd have to sort of figure out ways around it. But if you were, looking at a shop, say, and you're doing a painting of a building, and this shop has a blue sign outside it, your brain can quite accurately identify what kind of blue that sign is, and mix that blue, and then apply that blue to the canvas, and then go, but it doesn't look right. And then you have to figure out why it doesn't look right. And the reason it doesn't look right is because you haven't changed the blue to fit with the context. What you've done is you've matched the blue with a colour that if you went over and painted it onto the sign, probably would look right. Whereas that's not really how we experience it. If it's a sunny day and there's an orangey yellow sun, then that orangey yellow sun is going to affect the colours and the temperatures, as they appear. So you'd have to adjust that colour you've mixed, and you might end up with something that sort of looks kind of greeny, and you go, well, that can't be right. And then you put it on, and once it's in context, you go, oh yeah, it is. And it's a bizarre thing. I mean, any experienced artist will know that sometimes you're mixing a colour on the palette, and you're seeing it as a movement from a colour that you have towards a colour that you can see, and yet what's on the palette doesn't seem to relate in any way. and then you put it on and it's right. And it's, yeah, I'm not sure if this is making sense.
No, it is, yeah. So it's a kind of case of colour isn't just the colour you see, it's the colour that is surrounding it.
It's all context. Yeah, I mean, essentially there's no such thing as colour. It's an invention of how we react to a part of our own biology. Light is an electromagnetic, it's a visible, what we call light, visible light is a part of the electromagnetic spectrum that our eyes are sensitive to. The same electromagnetic spectrum that carries radio signals. If you tune into Radio 1 to listen to your favourite disco music, then you're listening to light. Light reinterpreted using a machine that, turns it into sound, but the thing that's flying through the air in all different directions is light. And so, why is one bit of it called red and one bit of it called blue? Well, that's just because of the cones in our eyes that differentiate different parts of it because it's useful. And then all of nature has sort of evolved alongside each other. So, the sensitivity that animals and creatures can have to particular wavelengths of light are then used by flowers, for example, or plants to communicate, to say, come and get your nectar here, or, I'm ripe, pick me. That's where it gets a bit thicker, isn't it? Also where it could stop making sense if I'm not careful. Yeah, so and so what we call colour and what we associate with colour is largely a cultural and biological thing that's emerged from how our eyes work. But it's not what would you call it? It exists in the same ontology as imagined realities. Colour is real in the same way a unicorn is real. As in, what a unicorn is. You've probably seen a drawing of one. You've probably read about one in a book. You'd have a job finding one, but its existence as an idea is very real to you. And colour is actually in that category. It's not, you can attach it to a physical thing. Just like there might be a drug that makes you see unicorns, but light is a drug that makes us see colour. Oh, that's a good quote, isn't it? I ought to keep that. I've been working on a course on colour, which will be coming sometime soon. Keep an eye out. Okay, that's popping up now, isn't it? These little highlights. A bit on there. To do with a few. Doesn't know what it wants. You can go there, you can go there. It's quite fun.
It feels like a very lively painting, which is lovely.
Good. Let's borrow a few more of these yellows and do some bright highlights in a few places, like here and here. Nice bit of negative space in there and there. What else? This could do with a few bits. Nice.
Josie said very beautiful.
Oh, that's such a generous supporter. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who lends their time and attention to this stuff that I do. I'm noticing a few people putting stuff out there, like charging, £50 for effectively pretty much what this is. This is how I paint this or whatever, like a tutorial. I don't really believe in tutorials. I think if you want to paint, get on with it, and if you're stuck with something, ask someone who knows or whose work you like, and you'll find that they're generally pleased to be visible and happy to share knowledge. Everybody is self-taught. There isn't some sort of mystical training someone's had you haven't. But they, most artists will have had the privilege of existing in a place where other people are doing it and it's normal, and that's the big advantage. And you can create that for yourself. You can find other artists. You can do those sorts of things. So I'm not about to do. If I do a saleable course, it'll be like a sort of a full-on sort of thing, something I've already taught that I know works. It would include workbooks and all that. So this sort of thing will always just be me archiving what I do, sharing it, and people coming along and appreciating it and enjoying it means the world to me. So thank you for your attention. And I think that's probably enough, he says.
That's enough, except for the 5 minutes of fiddling you're going to be doing.
A few little highlights. That highlight needs to get to the edge of that shape, and that one to the edge of that one. They're slightly yellower, these ones. Does that make a difference? It sort of does, actually, yeah. As does that. What about here? Once it stops making a difference, I'll stop fiddling. And this is where the paint gets thicker. The brush marks actually kind of become softer and more careful in order to lay a flat bit of paint on. Yeah, that probably will do now. Yeah, I think that's got the mood of it.
Ta-da!
Well, thank you for joining me. And
signing in pink.
What's that? Sorry.
Signing in pink.
I think I ought to sign it in pink. Yeah. Yeah, that's something I still haven't quite got the hang of. Signing my paintings, especially smaller ones. I need a small brush that keeps its point and doesn't just run out of paint after sort of 3 millimeters of making a mark. I will attempt it now. Not onto the tray. There we are. I'm not going to use a rigger. Yeah. Super. I can bring the camera in for a close look now.
So, I'm going to change the scene. Actually, don't really need to change anything.
All right. Oh. So yeah, so there's my palette, my little journey of pinks and reds. You can see them cools and warms and what have you. That's my background colours. So got a yellower one, a greyer one. Some of my bits and pieces, and that's my image. Now. I think, can you have we reset the camera?
How do you mean?
I think it's still got some distortions on it. So if you go to filters.
Oh yeah.
And just, yeah. Well, actually, yeah, you could default it, or you could just switch it. It's got a little eye symbol.
Yeah, I've put the cross through it. So.
Oh, right. And what about the color thing?
Yeah, we turn that off as well.
Yes, because it's good from a distance because it creates a bit of contrast, but for close up.
Yeah, go for it.
No. Oh, there we go. Yeah, see if I can get rid of some of that shine. There we go. A little zoom in. There's some flowers and leaves and simple little marks. That's my whole image. And the subject matter over there. Looks a lot more orangey than mine, but I guess I was in a pinky sort of mood.
Wonderful.
Yeah, right.
I really like it.
Well, thanks, Graham. Thanks for all your assistance. Fun. Where's oh, is that Rome?
It's that one.
That one. I am visible. I'm in darkness. Just do camera default at the bottom. Ta-da. There we go. Well, yes, thanks for coming and joining in and for sending messages and what have you. And be back again next week with something different.
Next week's bank holiday, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So, yeah, I suppose I'll have more energy because I haven't been working in the bank all day. And neither will you have. You don't have banks anymore, do we? Remember banks?
We're going to have a banking hub in town.
I wonder what that means.
It doesn't matter which bank you're with, you can still pay in, take out.
Just a sort of a homogenised. Oh.
It's all being run by the post office, apparently. So it's probably
quite right. Don't we have a post office?
Yeah, but
could they use that?
And this banking hub will do more than what the post office does, and also it will actually take away a lot of the questions and queries that the post office has. So the post office can actually deal with
sending things,
sending post. Should be a good thing.
Yeah. Oh no, I look forward to that.
And it's going to have a cash machine as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity now to sort of. I think there should be a manager in a bowler hat.
Oh, definitely. Bring that back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe we could advertise Sherborne's Bank. I could make an advert for them. They don't need to ask me to do it.
And it doesn't have to be a real job, but you could just put it like banking hub manager.
It'd be like an act of generosity for me to do an advert for them. I wouldn't be saying I was in charge of it. It might look like it, but yeah, for people would appreciate that. No, it'd be nice because there was a time when, when banks and stuff gave loans to people, and they'd know who they were giving loans to, and they'd know the people in their community. And I think we should bring that back because, I'm unhappy about having a machine telling me I don't qualify for a loan. I want a human being telling me I don't qualify for a loan. They can look me straight in the eyes. We don't think you've got a proper job.
my dad's very first job was working for Barclays, and in order for him to get to work, it was at the age where he was able to get a moped or a small motorbike and get to and from work a bit easier. Despite working at the bank and being able to afford it, the bank manager still said no.
That's great.
Yeah, cheers. It's made my life just really difficult.
Oh well.
Anyway. Well, thank you very much for this evening.
We'll see you.